Hi everyone, and welcome back to another round of crochet goodness. My name is Kat, and if you're new here, I make crochet tutorials. You can follow me on Instagram as well as my Facebook page at whataboutyarn. And if you like this video, please hit like, comment down below, and subscribe. For this project, we will need a superfine or a fingering weight yarn. I'm using this yarn called Indophil, which is an acrylic yarn from the Philippines. We also need a 3.5mm crochet hook, a yarn needle, and a pair of scissors. To begin, we will make a slip knot and make a chain that will go from the armpit down to the waistline. If you prefer a longer or a shorter top, please feel free to adjust the number of chains as well. I have 42 chains, and once you have your chain, we're going to double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. And double crochet into each of the stitches or each of the chains across. End of row 1, I have 40 double crochet in total. Continue with row 2 with a chain of 3 and turn your work. Now from here, we're going to skip the next stitch and work a double crochet into the next stitch. After that, we're going to double crochet back into the stitch that we skipped. And these stitches will now create a new stitch, which is called a cross double crochet stitch. So again, skip the next stitch and work a double crochet in the next. And again, work a double crochet back into the stitch that you skipped. Continue with this process or this pattern all the way until the end of the row. End of row 2, we will work our last stitch, which is a double crochet into the 3rd chain of the beginning chain 3. Continue with a chain of 1, and chain 1 here does not count as a stitch, and turn your work. Now for the next row, which is row number 3, we will single crochet into each stitch. So it's very simple, just work a single crochet for each stitch. At the end of row 3, I now have 40 single crochet. Now continue with a chain of 3 and turn your work. And from here, we will repeat row 2 and row 3 across double crochet row and a single crochet row up until your panel will completely wrap around your chest. Just make sure that you will end with a cross double crochet row and make sure that your panel is not too loose or too tight from your body. Once you have your panel, we will connect both of the ends with a slip stitch into each stitch. And you can also use any technique of your choice. I just finished my panel. Now we're going to start with the ribbing, so attach the yarn into any of the rows in the bottom. Once the yarn is attached, we're going to work a chain of 12. And if you prefer a longer ribbing, please feel free to add more chains into this. Once you have your chains, we're going to double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook and double crochet into each chain. At the end of the row, we will have 10 double crochet. Now we're going to skip the row where our yarn is attached, and we will skip the next row as well and slip stitch into the next row. Now slip stitch again into the next row, so that means we will be slip stitching twice. Now turn your work. And from here, we're going to do a double crochet, but this time we're going to insert the hook into the back loop. And this stitch is called a back loop double crochet. Work a back loop double crochet into each of the stitch. At the end of the row, continue with a chain of 3 and turn your work. And from here again, we're going to do a back loop double crochet into each stitch. When you reach the end of the row, again, we're going to skip the row where our yarn was attached and skip again the next row and slip stitch into the next row and slip stitch again. So skip 2, slip stitch 2. So just remember to skip the row where your yarn is attached and skip the next row as well and slip stitch twice. Continue with this process all the way around. Coming here into the seam, this is where my yarn is attached. I'm going to skip that row and I'm also going to skip the next row and I'm going to slip stitch into the seam because our seam here will count as one row. So slip stitch into the seam and slip stitch again into the next row. Now I'm going to continue with my ribbing all the way around. At the end of the round, we're going to close this part with a slip stitch into each stitch. Moving on to the last part of the pattern, which is the straps. We're going to place a stitch marker into each of the 4 cross double crochet row. Again, we're only going to add 1 stitch marker in each of the 4 cross double crochet row and not on the single crochet row. From here, I'm just going to give you a zoom so that you can see this a little bit better. As you can see here, I've placed 4 stitch markers into each of the cross double crochet row. Now remove the first stitch marker and attach the yarn. From here, we're going to work up our first strap. Chain 3. And chain 3 here will count as 1 double crochet. Now make another double crochet in that same row. This means we have 2 stitches in 1 cross double crochet row. Now make another double crochet in the next row, which is the row of single crochet. This is our 3rd stitch. Now remove the next stitch marker and make 2 double crochet in that same row. And this will be our first strap, our first row of the first strap, and we have 5 stitches in this row. Moving on to the next row, row 2, chain 3, and turn your work. Chain 3 here will count as 1 stitch. Now continue with 1 back loop double crochet into each stitch. At the end of the row, work your last stitch into the 3rd chain of the turning chain 3. We have 5 stitches. Now we will repeat again this row, row 2, starting with a chain of 3 and turn your work. And we're going to keep on working this row until your strap is long enough to go all the way to the back of the shoulder, and make sure to take into consideration that the back of the straps will form a sort of X. Make sure that your straps are neither too loose or too tight. For my size, that will be 12 inches. I just finished my strap. Now we're going to connect this into the back of the top. And as I said previously, make sure that you take into consideration that the back of the top will form a sort of X. Now we're going to connect this into the back part using a slip stitch. Once you're finished with the first strap, we're going to create the second strap. So remove your first stitch marker and attach the yarn in that same row. From there, we will repeat again the same pattern, the same amount of stitch to create the second strap. Attach the second strap at the back of the top, forming an X, and connect with a slip stitch. Finish off by weaving all of the ends. Friends, that marks the end of this tutorial. If you have any questions, please feel free to write them down below and I will do my best to answer them. I sometimes don't see your comments, but I always try to respond as soon as I can. However, please feel free to write me a message on my Instagram account where I share daily updates and crochet inspirations. Join this week's giveaway by answering the question below. Thank you so much guys for watching, and as always, have a good day. I'll see you on the next video. Bye!